Love doesn't begin in the heart. It begins in the body, silently, before she's even aware of it. A glance, a voice, a subtle scent, and her brain starts releasing chemicals that shape attraction long before logic steps in. Dopamine creates desire, oxytocin builds emotional safety, and estrogen sharpens memory, locking moments and people deep into her mind. Even touch can alter neural pathways, making someone feel irreplaceable without a single word spoken. What feels like magic is actually biology working in secret. And once this process starts, it doesn't simply fade. It rewires how she feels, thinks, and bonds. Love has a strange way of feeling sudden, almost supernatural, as if it appears out of nowhere. But beneath that rush is a quiet chain reaction, unfolding inside the body long before the mind catches up. When a woman begins to fall in love, her brain doesn't ask for permission. It responds to signals it has been learning since childhood: tone of voice, rhythm of movement, emotional safety, unpredictability, familiarity. Attraction often starts before she can explain why someone feels different from everyone else. And that's because the body recognizes patterns faster than conscious thought ever could. It begins with attention, not the obvious kind, but the subtle narrowing of focus. Her brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to motivation and reward. This is why love feels energizing instead of calming at first. It's not peace yet, it's anticipation. Dopamine sharpens memory, making small details glow brighter than they should. The way someone laughs, the timing of their replies, the look in their eyes during silence, her brain is essentially saying, "This matters. Remember this." That's why early attraction feels obsessive, why the mind loops back to the same person again and again, even during unrelated moments. It's not weakness, it's chemistry doing its job. At the same time, estrogen subtly amplifies emotional perception. Women are often more sensitive to emotional nuance during attraction, not because they are imagining things, but because their brains are wired to detect micro shifts in tone, facial expression, and behavior. When she's falling, her body becomes more alert to whether someone feels safe or unpredictable, warm or distant. Safety matters far more than most people realize. If dopamine lights the spark, oxytocin decides whether the fire is allowed to grow. Oxytocin is released through emotional connection, shared vulnerability, and yes, physical closeness, even something as simple as prolonged eye contact or a comforting touch. This chemical doesn't create excitement, it creates trust. And trust is what turns attraction into attachment. Here's the fascinating part. Her brain doesn't just react to how someone treats her, it reacts to how she feels about herself around them. If she feels seen, interesting, emotionally alive, her brain links that internal state to the person in front of her. This is why love can feel irrational. She's not only bonding to a person, she's bonding to a version of herself that emerges around them. Neurologically, the brain is excellent at association. It remembers not just events, but emotional environments. That's why certain people feel addictive without doing anything extraordinary. The brain is chasing a feeling, not just a face. Sexual attraction follows a parallel but interconnected path. Testosterone, present in women as well, plays a role in desire and curiosity. It heightens physical awareness and responsiveness. But unlike the simplistic idea that attraction is purely visual, the female brain integrates context deeply. Desire is influenced by emotional tension, mystery, confidence, and perceived value. The brain responds strongly to what is implied rather than what is shown. Anticipation often activates stronger neurological responses than fulfillment. This is why emotional foreplay can be more powerful than physical touch alone. The brain fills in the gaps, and those imagined scenarios activate the same regions as real experiences. As emotional bonding deepens, oxytocin begins to reshape neural pathways. This is where love starts to feel calming instead of chaotic. The presence of the person lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. Her nervous system literally relaxes around them. This is not metaphorical. Studies show that people we feel bonded to can regulate our emotional state simply by being nearby. Their voice, their scent, their touch can signal safety to the brain. Over time, this creates a sense of emotional home. Someone becomes familiar in a way that goes beyond logic. The brain starts to categorize them as us rather than other. But love is not linear. The brain constantly balances novelty and security. Too much predictability can lower dopamine. Too much unpredictability can raise anxiety. The sweet spot is emotional consistency paired with mental stimulation. When a woman feels emotionally safe but mentally engaged, her brain releases both oxytocin and dopamine together. This combination is powerful. It creates passion that doesn't burn out quickly. It's also why emotional withdrawal or inconsistency can feel devastating. When bonding chemicals are present, distance triggers the same brain regions associated with physical pain. Heartbreak isn't poetic language, it's neurological reality. Memory plays a critical role here. Emotional experiences are stored more deeply than neutral ones. Moments of vulnerability, intense laughter, shared silence, these are encoded with stronger emotional markers. The hippocampus, responsible for memory, works closely with the amygdala, which processes emotion. When both are activated together, memories become vivid and long-lasting. This is why certain people remain unforgettable long after the relationship ends. The brain doesn't easily release what once felt emotionally significant. It holds on, sometimes longer than the heart wants to. There's also an identity shift that happens quietly. As bonding increases, the brain starts to integrate the other person into its self-concept. This is why love can change priorities, habits, even future goals. It's not loss of self, it's neural expansion. The brain is designed to survive in connection. When someone becomes emotionally important, their well-being begins to matter almost as much as one's own. This is why love can make people braver, softer, or more vulnerable all at once. The brain is recalibrating what it considers important. Sexual bonding reinforces this process. During intimate moments, oxytocin spikes dramatically, strengthening emotional memory and attachment. For women especially, sex is often processed as both a physical and emotional event, even when intention is casual. The body doesn't always separate meaning the way the mind tries to. This doesn't mean attachment is guaranteed, but it explains why emotional detachment after intimacy can feel unnatural or difficult. The brain has already begun to link closeness with connection. Interestingly, falling in love can temporarily lower activity in brain regions associated with critical judgment. This doesn't mean people become blind. It means the brain prioritizes bonding over evaluation. Evolutionarily, this makes sense. Excessive doubt would interrupt connection. This is why early love feels optimistic, forgiving, even idealistic. Over time, as attachment stabilizes, judgment returns. Real compatibility reveals itself then, not at the beginning. Love doesn't disappear, it matures. Fear also plays a role. When emotional investment increases, the brain becomes sensitive to potential loss. This can manifest as anxiety, overthinking, or emotional guarding. It's not insecurity by default. It's the brain protecting something it now values. When reassurance is present, oxytocin counteracts this fear. When reassurance is absent, cortisol rises. Emotional consistency becomes essential not just for romance, but for nervous system regulation. What's truly fascinating is how much of this happens without conscious decision. A woman doesn't choose when her brain releases these chemicals. She can resist, rationalize, even deny feelings, but the body often moves faster than thought. This is why love can feel like surrender, not because of weakness, but because biology is persuasive. The brain evolved to connect before it evolved to explain. And yet, love is not just chemistry. Chemistry opens the door. Experience determines whether someone stays inside. Repeated emotional safety, shared meaning, mutual respect, these reinforce neural bonds over time. Love deepens not through intensity alone, but through consistency. The brain learns what to expect. And when expectation meets care, attachment becomes secure. By the time love feels obvious, it has already been happening for a while. in glances that lasted half a second longer, in conversations that felt easier than they should, in the way the body relaxed without realizing why. Love announces itself quietly before it ever speaks loudly, and once the brain has decided someone matters, it doesn't simply let go. It remembers. It adapts. It bonds. What we call falling in love is really the brain learning a new emotional language, one built from chemistry, memory, safety, and desire. It's invisible, powerful, and deeply human. And the more you understand what's happening beneath the surface, the more you realize that love isn't mysterious because it's random. It's mysterious because it's precise, ancient, and happening in ways we're only beginning to understand. Love doesn't begin in the heart. It begins in the body, silently, before she's even aware of it. A glance, a voice, a subtle scent, and her brain starts releasing chemicals that shape attraction long before logic steps in. Dopamine creates desire, oxytocin builds emotional safety, and estrogen sharpens memory, locking moments and people deep into her mind. Even touch can alter neural pathways, making someone feel irreplaceable without a single word spoken. What feels like magic is actually biology, working in secret. And once this process starts, it doesn't simply fade. It rewires how she feels, thinks, and bonds.